Hello, everyone. If you can see and hear me, feel free to use the chat. I am Rachel Murray, the co-founder and co-CEO of She Geeks Out. Welcome, everyone. Feel free to toss in where you're texting us from, where you're chatting us from, and we are going to get this party started. Just for a quick second, just wanted to tell you a little bit about who we are in case you don't know. Hi, Belma. I am going to kick it over to Belma in one hot second. Just wanted to say hello, introduce myself, let you know just a little bit about us. So essentially, She Geeks Out, we do two things. We run events for women in tech and tech adjacent roles, and we also offer corporate training on diversity, equity, and inclusion. My role at She Geeks Out is more on the community side, and so what we really are trying to do, especially now more than ever, is to really create opportunities for connection, for networking. We have been traditionally Boston-based and very reliant on the kindness and generosity of companies to let us use their spaces. Well, guess what? We don't need to do that anymore. Here's to a global pandemic, I guess. And so we're able to do some virtual events. And I am so excited because Belma McCaffrey from Work Bigger is going to be talking with us about how we can all, well, I'm thankful that I'm not currently looking for a position, but I will let you know, Belma, if that changes. But for those of you who are, he's going to provide some wonderful wisdom. So with that said, I just wanted to point out just a couple of logistics. Feel free. I've seen that you're all comfortable with the chat. There's also a Q&A functionality that you'll see in the tab on the third tab. And what you'll be able to do if you like is you can add questions on there. And then what you can do is you can upvote them. So throughout Belma's presentation, and then she'll be taking some questions at the end, and I can join as well. So Belma, you can just say, hey, Rachel, come up and join me, or if you got it, that's cool too. And if anyone has any questions or concerns for me, feel free to chat me directly or use the general chat. And so with that said, I'm going to kick it over to Belma. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Can everybody hear me okay? I'm guessing yes. Okay. Yeah, thank you so much, Rachel, again for having me. I'm so excited to chat with you all today. I know this is a crazy time in the career space and when it comes to the job search. So what I'm going to do is I have a super informal presentation for you all, but I really want this to be casual. Please keep asking questions in the chat and we can really have a conversation here today. So just give me a minute. I'm going to share my screen. I am still learning this platform. Let me see. Okay, I think you guys can see that. So I'm gonna not share the full screen because if I do, then I'm gonna lose the chat and I won't be able to keep up with that. So I'm just gonna use this as a starting point. Again, yeah, so if you guys, and I saw everybody was networking here, which is awesome and super fun. So I just want to stress, I really want everybody to get the most out of this presentation. So, just in case you have your phone open or you have a million tabs open, which, I'm usually guilty of, just put all of that away because the more present you are, the more you're going to get out of the talk today. And I also want you guys to just, as I'm running through it, to think about what's coming up for you. Oh, you can make the presentation full screen on your end. Amazing. Okay, great. Yeah, just I want you to process and think about what's relevant for you, and then we can have a Q&A at the end. All right, so just to dive right in, what you're going to learn about today, I'm going to cover three things. We're going to talk about identifying your core mission and goals to pivot your career and land or role at a company that you care about. So I'm going to go into that much deeper. We're going to talk about purpose today. Second, I want to talk about using a mindset of possibility to unlock job opportunities. And third, you're going to learn about implementing digital networking strategies. You guys are already pros. You're navigating this platform really well, and you're part of She Geeks Out. But we can talk about just other ways to get yourself out there right now, especially given that, everything that's going on. I'm going to share just a special offer at the end. So please stick around. I don't want you guys to miss it. And with that, I'll just share a little bit more about myself and why I'm here today, why I'm leading this session, and why this work is so important to me. I run a company called Work Bigger. Work Bigger is a career coaching platform, and our mission is to help you do work you love that makes an impact, it makes a difference in the world, but without burning out. So we focus heavily on the mindset and the well-being part. And I'll share a little bit more why, but we really, our core focus is purpose and mindset, and we combine those two things really well. We do that in 3 ways. We have a group coaching membership where we make career coaching and leadership development more affordable and accessible. Private coaching, I work with clients one-on-one to help them go deeper with their career change. And then we also, similar to She Geeks Out, we lead trainings at organizations. I started Work Bigger because of a personal pain point. Work Bigger is the resource I needed years ago. I spent all of my 20s feeling really disconnected from my career. And I have this image here because this is what my life looked like. It was a cycle of, where I started my career super excited, really driven. I worked in the media space, and a few months in, like something wasn't feeling right and I didn't know what. And I said, you know what, I think it's the job's fault. So I'm going to go and I'm going to find another job. And I stayed at that company for over a year, but eventually, I moved on. And I got to that second job and the same thing started happening. And I was like, what's going on? Why am I feeling so disconnected? Why am I feeling frustrated? I felt like I was working to climb the corporate ladder, but in the meantime, I was burning out and lacking purpose. And I really wasn't clear on what it was that I was going for or achieving big picture wise. And I wasn't clear on the impact that I was making. So I spent, about 7 years in this cycle going from job to job, thinking that that's where the answer was. Like if I just found the right job, it would solve this problem that I was having. So I'm curious, just as I'm sharing this, if this resonates with anyone and if anyone here has been living in this cycle at all, because I certainly did for years. And eventually what I ended up doing was going back to business school because I thought, okay, well, getting a degree, right, and focusing on more education is going to help me to pivot. And that's where I saw that so many of my classmates, everybody was looking at grad school as their do-over, essentially, right? We weren't asking the bigger questions like, why am I frustrated? Why do I keep going from job to job? And why isn't that solving the problem for me? Not only was there not enough intention behind the decision to go back to business school, I also saw that people weren't getting the results they wanted, and we were spending thousands of dollars, right? And I gave up a pretty decent salary to go back full time. So financially, it's, and time-wise, it's a massive investment. So I'm just curious as I'm sharing the story if anybody feels similar, and also if anybody is also thinking about grad school as an answer to feeling stuck with your career. In addition to that, I just want to share something personal. Another reason that I'm building Work Bigger, or really what's had a huge impact, is that I'm an immigrant. I was born in Albania, which is a really small country in Eastern Europe. And when I lived there, it was a really poor country because it was a communist country for many years. And I went back to Albania last summer with my whole family, which you see here. And I'm sitting on the beach with my mom, and we're talking about the people and the culture and just how much the country has changed over time. And she said to me, we started talking about work, which she doesn't usually do with me, but she said to me, to work hard is to love life. And I'm going to repeat that. To work hard is to love life. And that really stood out to me because I thought, here, to work hard is really, it's about burning out, right? And like pursuing things and opportunities that don't necessarily fully align with who we are and what we truly want. But yet my parents didn't approach work that way. For them, work was always a vehicle to get us out of Albania, to move us here, and to help us just really do what the impossible, essentially. Like, I'm able to live here and build a business. And when my mom said that, I thought, I'm like, that's really what work should be about. It could, no matter your circumstances, work can be a vehicle to creativity and to building a better life for yourself and to making an impact. So with that, we've been around for about 4 years now. Here's just some of the platforms that we've been featured on, which I'm really proud of. And we've also worked with some great companies, Burberry, Oath, Eisner Amper. As a coach, I'm trained with the Neuro Leadership Institute. So what that means is that I combine neuroscience with leadership development. And I'm going to do that here today, because understanding sometimes just like the neuroscience part, or, the science aspect of what's going on when we're feeling stressed and anxious when it comes to our careers, can be really powerful and really practical. So we'll get into it today. And then before running Work Bigger full time and dedicating my career to it, I spent about 10 years in media. I worked in business development and strategy roles at companies like the Associated Press, Condé Nast, and Group M. All right, so with that, I really want to talk about you now and everything that you're going through. I see so many, there's a lot of change happening today. And whether it's members in the Work Bigger community or other people that I've been speaking with outside of our community, I see several things happening. I see people falling into these 3 buckets. Maybe you're in the midst of a career change, and that career change started before COVID hit, right? Like maybe it started in February, January, or even months before that. Maybe you've been thrown into a career change because of recent layoffs and circumstances that are totally out of your control, right? And you weren't prepared for it. And I think if you're not in one of these 2 buckets, you may still have this fear of just, getting laid off in the near future, or pay cuts, or whatever unforeseen changes there are, because there's so much uncertainty right now, right? We don't know when this thing's going to end, and that can be really tough on our mental health, and it could be really challenging to put together a plan. So again, just keep sharing. I'm just curious to hear where everyone's at, so keep sharing in the chat which bucket you think you're in, and we can also talk through that during the Q&A a little bit more. All right, so I want to jump now into 3 things that I think are absolutely critical to do right now to help you manage your career, no matter where you're at. Okay, so the first step I'm going to start with is mental health, taking care of your mental health. And I'll tell you, I bet you by this point, because we've been in quarantine, some of us are starting to come out of that. There's been a lot of talk around mental health, or at least, what I've seen, also because I follow the mental health space quite a bit. So you may be working on this already, right? But I cannot stress the importance of it. Mental and emotional health are core human needs. And I think before COVID happened, those were the things that were easier to ignore, because we were go, 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 constantly in action, moving from one thing to the next. And then all of a sudden COVID hit, and we're stuck home with our thoughts and our stress and our anxiety. And many of us were forced to deal with it, right? Or to look at it. So I just have a list here, just in case you're not doing this already, a list of tactics to help you continue to work on the mental health piece, because I can't stress enough, it's foundational. No matter where you are in your career change, this is one of the most important things that you can start with. So first, if you're feeling really anxious about the job search and not knowing what's going to happen, right, really living with a lot of uncertainty right now, just address the anxiety just by allowing it, giving yourself space every day to feel it versus to block it or to suppress it, right? So some things that you can do is journaling, just carving out a few minutes and journaling with whatever thoughts are coming to mind for you. Meditating, if that's a practice that doesn't feel too hard. I know they can feel really challenging for some people, and that's okay. Reading to get your mind off of things, doing a puzzle, coloring, minimizing social media, and then minimizing the news. I was like all in the news in the beginning, and then I just had to really start cutting it out because it was causing me so much stress. So yeah, I really want to stress this. One of the reasons that working on your mental health is so important is because it will help you to cultivate a mindset of possibility versus a mindset of fear, right? I'm going to talk about the difference, but cultivating a mindset of possibility, right? When you can see different opportunities out there, that's going to allow you to see the growth that's happening in the economy right now. Because while some industries and companies are contracting, right, and there are so many layoffs going on, and we hear these big scary numbers around the layoffs, there are many other companies that are still hiring and they're experiencing growth. And what I would love for you guys I want you to leave this session with, there is opportunity out there. I just have to find it, because there is. Because in times of chaos, there is always opportunity. There's always innovation happening. So here's a list of just some resources, opportunities that I put together for you guys. The first, I always like to think about like the bigger picture and to zoom out. So in terms of identifying those opportunities, always think about what are core essential needs of humans, right? We have four core needs: spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical. Okay, so digital health companies, especially mental health, those are going to continue to grow right now. Healthcare companies like Aetna have been hiring. Online education platforms, companies like Teachable were hiring when I last checked, so check that out, because the education industry is changing so much. Social media, I've seen a lot of opportunities there. Tech, many tech companies are focusing on COVID-19 relief. Something that's not on here, and just tying to that physical core need that we have, is companies like Peloton, right, where they're making health and wellness more accessible at home, right? They're doing really well, so companies like that to look out for. And then I have a list of other companies here: Boston Consulting Group, HP, Mercedes-Benz, Pepsi. There's these two links right here to track layoffs and pay cuts: candor.co /hiring-freezes, and also stillhiring.org. These are awesome resources just to save you some time. If there's a company you're interested in, you can go in and check to see if there's a hiring freeze, and then you know not to apply, because you don't want to spend your time sending out your resume online and then being like, oh, okay, well, they're not hiring. That's really, your time is valuable. So check out these links here. All right, so now I want to keep talking about the mindset of possibility and how to cultivate that. Okay, and I'm going to talk for anybody. I haven't checked the chat. So Rachel, if you want me to pause at any point, just feel free to stop me and share anything you think I need to read. I just haven't read through all the comments yet, but I love that they're coming in, guys. I'm so happy to see them.
That's all I'm saying. There's so many good things that are coming in, so feel free to pop out and pop in, but it's great. I love it. I'm going to pop back out now.
Awesome. Thank you, Rachel. So let's talk. So I especially want you to listen carefully here. If you're like stressed at all, or you're experiencing any anxiety or fear, I'm guessing you're here because you're trying to navigate all of that. The brain essentially operates in two ways, okay? The away state and the toward state. When you are in the away state, which many of us are in right now because we're just not feeling like ourselves, we've been in quarantine, there's the fatigue, it's just, right? Things have not been easy. When you're in the away state, you are essentially in fight or flight mode, okay? And what that means is that your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain right here that's responsible for decision planning, career planning, putting your job search strategy together, right? Helping you be really strategic and thoughtful. That part of our brain is really limited. And when it's limited, there's four things that essentially we lose out on. It inhibits our creativity, right? So we can't think creatively, we can't problem solve the same way. Collaboration, it becomes really difficult to work with other people. Our working memory is limited. The brain, the prefrontal cortex, I should say, typically holds about 4 to 7 pieces of information. all at one time. But when you're in fight or flight, it's less than that. You're like, you just don't have space to think about much. And also your field of view, meaning what's possible for you, becomes really narrow because you're just focused on surviving. So some of the feelings that you may be experiencing when you're in the away state are things like anger, frustration, confusion, overwhelm, okay? More negative emotion. And absolutely no shame if you're here. A lot of us are here right now, and this is part of the human experience. But I want you I want you to really think about, are you in this place right now? And then I'll give this example here, right? So if you just got laid off recently, I know a lot of people are going through layoffs right now. Just to give it some thought and share in the chat, like, what are you thinking? Right, I'm curious. If you can put yourself, either if you've actually been laid off or put yourself in the shoes of somebody who got laid off, what are some of the things that you're thinking? I'm gonna pop in the chat here, and I'd love to read some of the comments out loud. I'm thinking, no, not again. Very good, thank you, Melissa. 2008 all over again, yeah, so it's like, great, like this is happening again. I've been here before, right? I feel exhausted. In the past, I felt ashamed, even though it wasn't my fault. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think there's a lot of shame going on today as well. And meanwhile, it's so many people are going through layoffs, and the shame is really intense, which, it's exactly, it's like, it wasn't my fault, and it's no one's fault now. It's circumstantial. Yeah, thank you guys for sharing that. So here are, excuse my formatting here. Here are just some of the examples that I hear. This came up. I'm exhausted. This situation will never end. I'll be competing with so many others. Some of this I've taken from the Work Bigger community, right? And messages on our Instagram, just what I hear people sharing or people emailing me. It's not possible. Like it's not possible for me to get out of this. This is going to be so hard. This is some of the stuff that we've been hearing. So I want you to take a pause right now and to think about whether, you shared the thoughts and how will I find another opportunity during this time? Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Madi, for sharing that. So think about what feelings does this bring up when you see either these thoughts written out here, when you see the thoughts written in the chat, or when you're just experiencing your own negative thoughts. What is the feeling that comes up? And then what is the action that you want to take? So I want you to link it to the behavior. Depression. Yeah, Melissa, thank you. So yeah, eat, yeah, which is a form of avoidance, right? It's the fight or flight. See, the fight or flight, you're demonstrating like how it manifests into the behavior, into the action. That's a great example. Depression, Zoom fatigue. Yeah. Heather, so think about what is the action that you want to take as a result of the depression and the Zoom fatigue. Self-blame, what can I do better? Yeah, so self-blame, again, so now think about the action, tie it to that. Danielle, should I pivot into another career? And if so, how? Okay, so Danielle, I hear like your mind is going, right? It's like, okay, like how can I figure this out? How can I get out of this? These are really good examples, everyone. So this is something I want you to take with you following this call to work to really, like if you're in the away state, just to do this exercise, like what are the thoughts that I'm thinking? What feelings do they bring up? And then what is the behavior? What is the action that I'm taking, so that you can really tie it right to the behavior, because it's the behavior that's going to create your outcomes, right? So overall, when we're experiencing negative emotions, we take actions that don't serve us, right? We said it here, right? Eating or like blaming myself. What can I do better? We start to spiral. We're either avoiding the situation completely and we're like, I'm going to do something else. I'm going to go watch Netflix or not focus on this because it's too stressful. Or I'm going to try to hurry up and find a solution. I'm going to apply to a million jobs online because that way at least I'm taking some sort of action, even though that action may not be like fully thought out, fully intentional, right? It may not be planned, but you're doing one or the other. You're in fight or flight mode. Okay, so it's really important When you are in the toward state, let's talk about the toward state. That is where the mindset of possibility lives. You're experiencing a dopamine release and you're driven towards action, and it's basically the complete opposite. Your prefrontal cortex, which again is responsible for decision making and planning, is highly functioning. So you can be more creative, you're able to solve for problems, you have increased cognition, you can hold more information, right, in that part of your planning brain. Increased collaboration, you can work better with other people, and also you have a broader field of view. That's where you can see the growth opportunities. That's where you can see the possibilities. So the toward state is driven by more positive emotions, things like excitement, joy, happiness, curiosity. Also, any feelings of peace or groundedness, right? Like just feeling like that sense of calm, feeling like that I'm going to be okay. All of that would go here. You feel more secure, right? All of your energy isn't going into survival. You have more resources at your disposal. So just like we did with the away state, let's do the same thing with the toward state. There was a week that I had 4 people just reach out to me and tell me, like, I landed this opportunity, I'm super psyched about it. And it was things that they wanted. So if you can put yourself in the shoes of this person, right? Or I can do this. I know 4 people who just landed jobs they're excited about last week. I can keep going. Okay, I can do this. I can keep going. If you could put yourself in that situation, I want you to ask yourself these 2 questions. How are you feeling? What's the emotion that comes up for you? And then 2, what is the action that you want to take? I'm going to pop back into the chat. So think about it. So I want you to go to the thoughts, the more positive thoughts, right? Like, I can do this. I have proof. I know 4 people who just landed jobs they're excited about. What is the feeling that comes up for you here? And then what is the action that you want to take? Okay. Motivated. Danielle, amazing. Yeah, so if you think about that motivated feeling, what behavior, like what do you want to do with that? Relieved. Thank you, Sweta. Yeah, so relieved, so awesome. Feeling of determination. Action is to outline tasks that I need to do to get to my goal. Perfect. So I'm hearing, Anna, like you're putting a plan in place. Resilient. Yes. I love it. That's awesome. Curious. Yeah, curiosity is so powerful because you start to ask questions, and that's where the learning happens. Thank you, everyone. This is great. Yeah, so the takeaway here, right, is operating from a place of possibility enables you to take action and create better results for yourself. Because think about it, right? If you're feeling motivated, you're feeling curious, you're feeling determined, keep the flywheel going, right? Relieved. Your behavior looks so much different, right? You're not avoiding, you're not applying online to a million places just to get your name out there or, your resume out there. You are just being more methodical, more thoughtful, more purposeful. All right, so that is step number 1. Step number 2, right? So we talked about working on your mental health, working on your mindset, starting to shift from fear mindset to possibility mindset. Step 2 is to identify your core mission and goals. I'm so excited to talk about this. And actually, I think on the invite, Rachel had shared with you all a workbook on finding your mission, and I saw some of you started to download it already, which is amazing. So I just want to say, like, joining this call here today is such a powerful step in making progress with your career. Download this workbook and just take some of the stuff you're learning here, take it to the next level by working on that workbook, because I've put together some just more thoughtful questions for you, similar to the exercises we're doing here. So I just want you to think about, what was your strategy before COVID-19, right? So like, what was your job search strategy? Were you applying to jobs online? Were you sending out your resume? What I see happening all the time is that sometimes it feels easier to go on Indeed and submit our resume, right? And do like the just online application process, because all we need is a resume or a cover letter, and we just need to find a job that looks interesting or aligns with our skills. And I really want to challenge you on that strategy. Okay, and I'm not saying eliminate it altogether, but I want you to think bigger. Identifying your mission, I think, should be a critical part of your job search strategy, because mission and purpose is a core human need, just like mental and emotional health. Okay, so identifying your mission is not just about identifying the job role. Okay, the process of getting clear on your purpose really requires you to go inward. It's about taking a pause, doing a little less, and reflecting, being more thoughtful about what you want and who you are and the impact that you want to make. And this is the thing that I've seen has been missing for so long, right? We don't go to school and we're not taught about our purpose. We're taught to update our resume and update our cover letter and to go out and network and make sure that we check off all these boxes. And I don't know about you, but for me, that has left me feeling very demoralized and awkward when I'm out there networking. Like, I just don't want to do it. It's not comfortable, right? So if we can think of a new strategy where we can go deeper and really identify our mission, it changes that. This is the process that we use at Work Bigger, right? And the whole point, the first thing I want you to take away from this image here is to ask why first. And this comes from Simon Sinek's Golden Circle, which he applies to companies, right? And how companies are successful. You may already be familiar with him, but he says to be a successful company, right, you need to connect with your customers emotionally. So you need to first communicate, right? And then you can communicate how you do that, and then you communicate what you do. And to use Apple as an example, Apple's why is to challenge the status quo, right? And the way they do that is they sell computers, but they don't lead with "I sell computers." They lead with "I challenge the status quo," and it is the same thing for career development. Okay, leading with we are looking for an emotional connection to our work most of the time, right? So really identifying your why and thinking about, what is it that I care about? What is it that I love? What's important to me? And what that entails is getting clear on your interests and your passions. And it's not about finding your passion. This is much bigger than that. Passion is part of that. Getting clear on your values, what you stand for, and also looking at things like pain points and painful experiences, stuff that you don't want to look at. That's really what's going to help you come up with your why and help you get clear on what drives you on a bigger level. And then after that is identifying your strengths, right? How you're going to bring your why to life. And then comes the job role, and then you identify the what. I see so many, right? Like just what we tend to do is here, we start with number 3. We just have to find the job, and we really need to flip that. We need to start asking the deeper, bigger questions so that once we get to number 3, it's the right one. It's the right opportunity for us, right? It has intention, it has purpose. So getting to your mission is a process that requires you to go inward. And where we're at right now, right, depending on your needs, of course, because I know some people have a sense of urgency to get a job and pay the bills, and I want to honor that and I want to acknowledge that. That's really important. If you can, right, if you're in a place where you're asking yourself, I really want this to be the right opportunity this time, right, and I have some space to think about what that could be, I want you to go inward. That's what the workbook is for. So please download that. I can share it in the chat, or Rachel, feel free to if you want, but I can also share it at the end. And it really entails, right, asking yourself, what do you care about and why? Who do you want to be? What's motivating you today? So really asking some bigger, deeper questions outside of, what is the job? So the most awesome thing about finding your mission is that it moves you into a tort state, right? Because it's brain friendly. When you come up with your mission, you have a vision, and essentially you're less confused. A lot of the stress that's present right now with the with career change and the job search process is because you may not know like what that job role is, certainty, but when you have clarity on your mission, you have more certainty in your life. You are more grounded, and it gives you something positive to work with, right? And something exciting to look forward to. And it just really focuses you and anchors you. I'm going to share an example here. This is one of my members, Leah Newmoff, and she's an artist and a member. And I love sharing her example because she's an artist and she has one of those careers that sometimes feel like so hard to get. But this is what she said before she found her mission. She said, I wasn't able to visualize a life as an artist up until that point. I had internalized that my art was only ever going to be a side hustle and is not a realistic way to build a life. After she found her mission, she shifted and she said, every decision I've made since comes back to my being an artist. I stopped looking at jobs that weren't in the art and design sector. I stopped trying to come up with lines of business that had nothing to do with art. I basically stopped trying to be the things that I'm not. Being an artist and building that life has been my guiding compass. So I just think this is so powerful because a mission will focus you, it will anchor you, it'll give you more clarity, and will allow you to keep going and create resilience when things are really challenging. I'm going to just stop right here and take a look at the chat. Oh, thank you, Rachel, for sharing the workbook. Amazing. Oh, yes, the word ikigai. I've heard that, Mariana. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, see that. Yeah, I see that visual. All right, awesome. Thanks, everyone, for all your comments. Okay. Yeah, I see it was Anna who shared it. Perfect. All right, so let me jump into step 3, and then I want to leave some time for questions for everyone. So let's talk about implementing some digital networking strategies. All right, we've talked about mindset, right, and approaching, or as much as you can, approaching this from a place of possibility. And one note on that I wanted to state earlier, I've seen this happen. Like, people tend to beat themselves up if they're not in the away state all the time, and I don't want you to do that. The away state and the toward state go together, okay? You cannot have one without the other. It's part of the human condition, and they coexist. So I want to make sure I stress that, because if you are in the away state, that's totally okay. Just implement some of those things that we talked about to help you shift into the toward state. And when you download the workbook, you actually get a training on the brain, which is part of our welcome series. So that might be helpful as well. Then we talked about finding your mission and your purpose, right? And going inward and really identifying what it is that you want before you go and you create a job search strategy around that specific job. And then now implementing digital networking strategies. So how can you do that? I know this is a tough time. Everybody has so much going on, right? Even though there's more time in the day, which I definitely don't think there is. So the first thing I want to say is there's no shoulds. I had a client come up to me and she actually sat in on one of these calls, and she said, she's like, now I feel like I should be going out there and networking and doing all this stuff. And it's like, no, really, it's whatever feels good for you. It's honoring that mindset first and that mental health first, right? So in terms of going out there and networking, just ask yourself, does this feel good for me right now? Does this align with my plan? Does this bring me in a toward state? Okay. The second thing, which I think is so helpful if you're struggling with networking right now and you're struggling with making those connections, obviously, like Rachel, I love what you guys have done here just with this platform. It's so awesome to be able to connect this way. I saw everybody sharing LinkedIn profiles. So the one thing I'll add here is to adopt a community mindset, which really means you don't have to go through this alone. There's so many people who have lost their jobs right now and who are in a career change. And adopting a community mindset could mean linking up with, a couple of people here and saying, can we start an accountability group where we connect once a week and check in on each other, or we're keeping an eye out for certain opportunities, relevant opportunities for each other. This way you're not navigating it alone. This is what we're doing in Work Bigger. Everybody's sharing job offers and keeping an eye out for each other, right? So thinking about that giving community mindset and adopting that here, and you don't have to go out and network alone, and having some accountability around it too will help you will help you keep making that progress, especially if you find yourself you're in the away state a lot. The other thing I'll add is just tapping into existing digital communities like She Geeks Out. Obviously, it's an amazing group. Work Bigger, of course. Career Contessa, Fairy God Boss. There are other platforms where just great audiences, like, similar to She Geeks Out, in that you just see people are like really driven and ambitious and excited about their next steps and figuring that out. These are some other communities to check out. Ivy Exec, Dreamers and Doers, Jobs and Gigs. I've seen that they've shared a lot of job opportunities on there lately. They tend to be they fall heavily like in the part-time. So if you're welcoming that, I definitely recommend checking them out. They're an amazing community. All right, so I'll just do a quick recap, and then we'll jump into Q&A. So I just want to stress, this is the traditional path that I see so many of us have experienced, right? Where we're like going from job to job in this cycle, hoping that the job will fix this bigger problem around career dissatisfaction or feeling stuck or feeling burned out or feeling frustrated. And I just want to say, like, if you're in the place to break out of this cycle now, do it, right? Whatever that means for you. Because it's the way I see this is just such an energy suck, and it's such a time suck. Okay. And the way we tackle this at Work Bigger is to plan with the possibility in mind for, right? So working from that possibility mindset, then developing your mission and your vision so that you have some clarity and you're pursuing opportunities with intention. It's not coming from a place of fear of, I just need to get this out there because, this is going to happen again and I'm going to be in the same place I was years ago. No, take a pause, do the deeper work that's required. And I'm telling you, when you go on interviews, you have a very different conversations with the employer. You're talking about, especially if they're the right employer, okay, you're talking about things like values and the impact that you want to make. And you're not just talking about the tasks that you're going to do every day. And that is a very different discussion, and you're connecting on an emotional level. And that is what you want. That is really like where the right opportunity is found, where that match happens. And then developing a strategy, right, that gets you results. And that strategy is thoughtful because you've done some of the deeper work around mindset and mission. And then as I like to say, you're working bigger, right? You're connected to your work, you're connected to yourself, and you're realizing your full potential. I'm going to skip through the slide because basically just shares everything that I said already. And I'm just going to stress again, download the workbook. Don't stop here with this conversation today. Spend some time, carve out maybe 15, 20 minutes, work on the questions that I put together for you. And then real briefly, I'll mention the group coaching membership for anybody who is feeling like, what the hell am I doing with my career? I'm feeling really stuck and overwhelmed. And you're looking for more support right now. You're looking for more career coaching, and you're also not ready for something like one-on-one. The group coaching membership may be a great place for you to start. So check it out here. We're closed until the fall, but I'm more than happy if you're interested, you have questions, you want to apply. I'm more than happy to review your application. We do interviews with all of the applications too, and we can get you in sooner than later. So check that out if that feels good for you. And then with that, we can jump into questions and see what's present, and we can take it from there. So Rachel, what is the best way to do this? Should I let you moderate? You let me know.
Yeah, I'm coming on once. There we go. Hi. Thank you so much.
Hi.
That was wonderful.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah. And if you want, you can probably unshare your screen so people can see more of your beautiful face. So
perfect.
If people have more questions as we go through this, please feel free to add them to the Q&A. But we have our top question. I understand we need to focus on our mental health, but when I'm applying for jobs and preparing for interviews, the anxiety takes over. It's paralyzing. Any tips? That's such a great question.
Yeah. When did that question come in?
I think
Curious.
before you may have talked a little bit about some of the things that you were doing, but since I see people still upvoting it, I say maybe just talk some more about
Yeah.
it.
I will for sure.
Yeah.
So when that anxiety comes in, the first thing I want you to do is, can you hear me okay? My
Yeah,
headphones
you
are
sound great.
okay. The first thing I want you to do is allow the anxiety. Okay. I know that doesn't feel good. And you're like, get the anxiety away from me. I don't want to feel any of this. This feels terrible. But just give yourself some space to process. The anxiety is there for a reason. It's trying to tell you something, right? What is causing the anxiety? What are you anxious about when you're applying? Is it because you're applying to an opportunity that maybe doesn't fully align with you? Is there fear that if you get the interview, you don't feel fully prepared? Like, it's there for a reason. So just take a pause. Okay. Don't try to fix the anxiety. Just take a pause and try to be with it for 10 minutes. And the best way to do that, because sometimes it's really hard, like, how do I just be with my emotions? Just journal. Pick up a notebook and just write down whatever's coming to mind. I'm feeling anxious because I feel XYZ, right? I feel demotivated, stressed. Just get it out. And then just see, like, how does that feel for me? Was that helpful? Can I now pick up and continue taking action? Okay, so yeah, so it's just important to have these tools in place, right? And to leverage them. I don't think you should like stop your whole job search process just to focus on mindset, but you want to integrate them
Totally
into your strategy right now.
I love that. I've also started taking St. John's wort just for what it's worth. I think it's helping. I don't know.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah.
So next question is, how do you deal with starting over after making it to a few final interviews in a row, but then receiving a series of rejections?
Yeah. The question is, how do you pick yourself back up again? Is that?
Yeah. Starting over, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. A couple of things come to mind. First, just let yourself be upset and pissed and frustrated, right? Because that sucks. And I'm sure you had a lot of excitement around the opportunities, right? And a lot of hope. And it was probably giving you some of that certainty that ooh, what happened?
I don't know. Your video
Mike
went away. There you go. You're back.
There we go. Okay. Yeah, and I think especially given this time, because there's so much uncertainty, the certainty is a treasure. So I'm sure you were like banking on that a little bit, right? And if you were excited about the opportunity, that's even harder to deal with. So just let yourself be upset, okay? And then you have to pick back up and keep going, right? What is the alternative?
Yeah.
What is the alternative?
It is true. And for what it's worth, my philosophy is always like, things happen for a reason. I know it's so hard right now and it feels so discouraging, but it does somehow things tend to work out. So if you didn't get that job, it's probably for the best. that's
yeah.
What would be the best approach to navigate the job search due to the mass layoffs when you're entry junior in a tech field? Most job postings are focusing on senior level and rarely have junior level.
So can you read that to me again?
Yeah. So the question is someone who's more on a junior level. And so I guess she's finding more that there are positions that are available for senior level folks, especially when there's mass layoffs that are happening. And so how do you what's the best approach to navigating that job search?
Yeah. So what I'd love for you to think about with that is, what is your networking strategy, right? Because you may find more opportunity. Well, it's very highly likely anyway, you'll find more opportunities through connections versus like what you're finding online. And maybe you're referring to stuff too that you're hearing through connections. But I would start with building relationships. And where I always like to start is first just get your story down, right? Like what is what's your mission if you have that, right? What are you trying to accomplish? Why are these roles of interest to you? What do you want to learn? And then just see who you can connect with, because I'm sure there are opportunities out there too for entry level. You just have to find them.
Yeah.
And I find it's a lot easier to do that when you're asking questions and connecting with people. right? Especially because right now the job boards, there might be opportunities out there and then they're taking them down.
Yeah.
So it may not be a great place to rely on anyway.
And not to do a plug for She Geeks Out, but I highly recommend being a part of this network because there's definitely, I will tell you that, I talk with a lot of our sponsor companies and, and Belma mentioned this earlier too, there are still a lot of companies that are hiring and junior roles as well. And large companies are like, I'm one that I heard of recently, they're doing hundreds and hundreds of people are coming in on like internships. They're trying to figure this out. So there's definitely a lot of interest in having junior level folks as well. So hopefully you won't be too discouraged. And sorry, Belma, I know you're the one that's supposed to be answering all these questions.
No,
clearly I got thoughts. So
no. I think that's awesome. Yeah, please share because you're seeing too, like you're seeing the opportunities that are out there, and I think it's important to share that.
Yeah, there are certainly a lot of companies that are doing it. So next question, how do we deal with companies lowballing us? I feel like they're taking advantage of how fierce the competition is right now. That's a good question.
Who are these companies that are lowballing you? I would like to know so that we could put them on like a blacklist.
Exactly.
Because I think unless you're like a struggling small business, right? Or like unless you've been really impacted by COVID, you should not be lowballing employees. Like if you're doing well, if a company is doing well, you should still negotiate. If they're lowballing you, that's a huge red flag. So I would reframe the question and really think about like, are they lowballing because they're really struggling, or are they lowballing because there's a big values mismatch there? You don't want to work for them.
Such a good point. Okay, next question. How does one learn about what to improve on if companies don't offer feedback to candidates?
Yeah, they usually don't offer feedback. And I think there might be like legal implications for some. So this I would take into your own hands. And I would think about creating some sort of process after each interview, after each application, and really asking yourself, what did I feel good about? What didn't I feel good about? Like, what do I want to do differently? Right? Just having those two questions at the end of each interview, at the end of any networking session that you do, that's powerful enough. You may not always get the external validation that you need. It's also great practice to start checking in with yourself, right? And just to start honing in, and you'll see over time what needs to improve in your process.
Right on. And when you see multiple connections into a company, what advice do you have about who to reach out to make the intro to if you don't have a connection directly to the hiring manager? Is it the HR, someone who would be on the team? And I can, if you need help with this question, because I recently was in another webinar that we hosted that answered this question. So let me know, but you go for it.
Okay, well, I'll share my thoughts and then please feel free to add. What I would say is I'm hearing you have some connection there already, but it's not with the right person, right? It's not like the person who can get you into that role. I would say just start with that soft introduction if you can, right? Start with that. Did I understand the question right?
Yeah,
Rachel?
who should you reach out to if you don't have a connection to someone that's related to the hiring? Either in HR or would it be someone on the hiring team? Like if you were to go on LinkedIn and start to like do some searching.
I would go for who's on that team versus the hiring manager first, because they're going to be the ultimate decision maker. And also you want to express interest to the team directly, and you want to show like, I'm so excited to work for you. And the hiring manager, I mean, that's not necessarily the wrong way, but this way I feel like you're going directly to the person who's deciding, who's doing the final hiring. Rachel, do you have other thoughts around that? I'm curious.
Yeah, the only other thought that I had heard another career coach talk about was if you go on LinkedIn and because I think they get inundated a lot with people doing like LinkedIn requests. So, but if they're hiring, like if they literally say like, and a lot of times you'll see like, we're hiring, you should definitely feel open. That's like an open invitation to like reach out and chat with them. But if you don't hear from them, don't be discouraged. It might be that there's like many other folks.
Yeah. That's why I also find it helpful to connect with someone else who can get you into like the final decision maker too, because the hiring managers really are inundated
Yeah, totally.
and they're, yeah, yeah.
Another question, if you get to a final interview and you don't hear back, how much is it that you didn't get it versus they're having problems getting final approval for the hire?
How can you know that, right?
Yeah.
um, I'm curious with the person who asked that, what they're looking for there.
Yeah, and Jennifer, feel free to if you wanted to chat further. And I will say, as an employer, like as someone who has hired folks and who works with a lot of other companies that hire folks all the time, I will say it is one of those things that it's sort of goes back to what you said, Belma, earlier about like what are the values for the company that you want to work with. If you reach out and they don't get back to you, regardless of the reason, is that really a company that you want to end up working with anyway? It's sort of like it's sort of the dating philosophy. If they're just not that into you, then it's like I wouldn't want to be part of any club that wouldn't have me as a member. So, I mean, the only thing you can worry about is did it land in my spam? You try once or twice, but yeah, that's sort of my philosophy with that. If they're having problems getting final approval, well, if they want you bad enough, they will find a way.
Yeah, and I think that's so important to remember too. This is a two-way street. You're going to be working for this company for, a few years or however long, and you want to like them as well,
Yeah.
right? We often, when we're in the job search, we lose power. We all of a sudden feel like we need their approval. It's like, no, they also need your approval because you're awesome and you have a lot to offer. So I think there's an opportunity there to change your mindset too.
Yeah. Word. Jennifer's wrote, this is more that they just replied that they haven't made a decision yet. Well, at least they replied, so that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Fine. I mean, I would keep going.
Yeah.
Don't let that hold you back. Don't put all your eggs in that one basket because you don't know what they're dealing with too, right? And also there's just so much with COVID. Businesses, especially if it's a smaller business, there's just more uncertainty possibly on their end.
Right on.
So it may not even be personal, but for your sake, you want to just keep the ball rolling.
Right. And then like how often do you reach back out? Like bother them a lot, whatever is a lot. So.
Yeah. I would say what feels good for you? Did you feel a connection with that company, right? When you were at the interview, did you feel like, oh, this is the place I'd love to work for? Then don't be shy. Reach out, 3 times, stay in touch.
Yeah.
If the connection felt like so, then ask yourself, is this an opportunity for me to like focus my efforts elsewhere?
Yeah. Great. Thank you. And I know we've just got a few more minutes and a couple more questions have come in. It's been many years since I've interviewed for a job and I feel a little rusty. Any advice for getting interview experience? It's a great question.
Get advice for getting interview experience. I would say, can you practice with somebody that you feel safe with and who can challenge you? Mm-hmm. So what we like to do during practice sessions is, and we do this too in negotiation training, like just come at you like really rough to practice, like making you really uncomfortable, because that's probably what you're afraid of, right? You're afraid of going there and feeling awkward and stumbling on your story. So like, do your interview prep, list out your, like the questions that you want to prepare, get your story ready, and then have someone on the other side, like essentially doing that for you so you can get a little comfortable. I think that can work magic, actually.
I love that. Oh my goodness. There's questions are coming in fast and furious. Okay, next one. How does one decode culture fit? How can candidates position themselves as a fit in the interview? This is very commonly used as a rejection.
Yeah, and culture fit is so hard to detect too, because they might sound perfect on their website, right? And you really resonate with the mission on the website and the values. See how you feel at that first interview. Like, what is the vibe of the office? Now, we can't go into the offices like we could before, but see if you can read off like even things like the energy of like that they're putting out there. How are they responding to you? Are they replying to you? right? Like, what is their take around people and how they value people? You'll get that sense like from the interview process. If you can you find someone within the organization who is maybe at a more junior level that you can speak with, right? Because they'll share with you like how they're being treated, and if it's, not as well. So I think those can be really good indicators. Was there another part of the question,
I think that was
Rachel?
it. I think so. And oh
Okay.
my gosh, we're out of time, but really quickly, one popular question, can you share the links about the job search with us again? So we can also send out a follow-up, because this video will be made available and I can include links.
Yeah. Do you want me to do it right now?
Ready?
Hold on. I can pull it up.
Yeah.
Let me just.
And then
I'm guessing the layoffs and the hiring freezes, right?
yes. Yes.
Yes. So I'm going to share them in the chat, everyone.
Awesome.
There we go.
You're amazing. Thank you. And then I know we're a little over time, but I want to recognize that we'll do one more. Currently interviewing for a technical support engineer role. The next that they offered was for her to do a project. Is it normal for them to compensate for the project?
So we're like looking to hire two at Work Bigger, and I compensate for projects. I don't think everybody does, though.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, so I think it depends.
Yeah.
I would think about, what is the project? How much time is it going to take you, right? If it's going to be, because there's a fine line with the projects. I think they're such a great way to test skills and to test fit, but you also don't want a company taking advantage of you and you like doing all of this free work.
Yeah.
So if the project feels really big and intensive, I would question that.
I love that.
Yeah.
Belma, thank you so much. I know that there were a few more questions, but I do want to leave some time for folks to have more conversation too, and hopefully you can stick around and chat with some folks either now and I know that you've given your information, so thank you so much. I really appreciate the time you took with it.
Of course. Yeah, my pleasure. I'll stick around. It's 10 minutes, okay, Rachel, for me to stick around?
We'll put you in your lovely table, up to 6 people at a time. And then I hope the rest of you can feel free to stick around if you like. If not, no pressure. I know it's getting late. And if you haven't already, feel free to sign up for our Slack. We have a bunch more events that are related. You're in New York. There's absolutely no reason why you can't join us for all the virtual events, because we all live in the cloud now. So thank you again. Thank you to everyone who attended, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Thank you.